Welcome everybody, and this is the first lecture in the series by Swami Pitambaramanandaji Maharaj Ji, who is such a senior monk of the Ramakrishna order, such a learned monk. We are so privileged, and he has taken the pain of coming over from Belur to Advaita Ashram only to speak to us, and he will be speaking on the very important topic, education as per need of the individual. And as you know, this is the new lecture series. Before we had 51 lectures under the in connection with the pandemic. This lecture series is very important. It is on Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education. That is, as long as we live, so long as we learn. So now I would request our spiritual in charge, our Udanandaji Maharaj, to kindly introduce and speak a few words before Pitambaranandaji starts his lecture. Swami Udanandaji Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Nirmala. I, on the behalf of the Ramakrishna Vedanta Society of the Philippines, welcome you all to this new session that we have started. We were greatly motivated by our success of our last lecture series, so we thought that we will continue this endeavor and utilize the technology to the utmost. So while we were thinking of a topic, the idea came about Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education. Sri Ramakrishna used to believe, as long as we live, we learn. That was his point, and he was a very good learner. You see, he never had a formal education, he never went formally to any school. But because of his desire for knowledge, he kept on learning from various ways, by hearing talks, talking to the learned monks and scholars, like that, various ways he kept on learning. As long as he was alive, he was learning. And that is what he told his disciples also, that as long as we live, we should continue to learn. The point is, just by finishing university education or school education, our learning is not over. Education is not over. Education is a lifelong process. So with that motive in mind, we started this new lecture series. I'm talking about the importance of education in our life, talking about knowledge in our life. Knowledge is not about collecting data. Knowledge is getting wisdom in this life. Wisdom is experience, drawing out of the experience and how to live this life in a better way. That is the main concept. And we will continue this lecture series, and we have already in line many other reverential monk of Ramakrishna order. We are very, very grateful that most revered Pitambaramanji is the first one to inaugurate this session and bless us with his utmost wisdom. So I'm sure everybody will learn, and we have to remember, while we are learning, while we are hearing this, that we are all students here and we are all here to learn. So if we are as a student, and if we know that what we know is really we do not know, we will learn. But if we think we know everything, we will not learn. So whenever we hear any talk or lecture, we should be present here as a student so if we are present as a student, we will absorb and observe more and more of this knowledge. So I'm sure all of you will be get benefited out of this talk. As with me equally, I am also sure that I will also get benefited. So with these words, I would humbly request Maharaj, please take over and talk. Bless us with your talk. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for kindly agreeing to give us this talk. Thank you very much once again, Maharaj. So the mic is yours, Maharaj. Please, thank you.
I have to record now.
Okay. Yes, please, Maharaj ji. Kindly start.
Om Sarvadharma Sthapakastam Sarvadharma Swarupaka Acharyana Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Friends, I could not communicate this to you earlier for some technical reasons. This is not an independent, separate lecture. This is the inaugural lecture of a series, and the name of this series is, as you have learned just now, Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education. And it is based upon the sentence as Sri Ramakrishna said, I learn so long as I live. In Bengali, Jato din bachi, tato din shiki. Now the context of this particular sentence is two devotees from different denominations were sitting near Sri Ramakrishna, and one of them was communicating his knowledge or his ideas or his experiences to the other. The other in between resisted and said, you need not tell me, I know it, I know it. There Sri Ramakrishna interjected and said, this is not a good idea that I know it. You could not be knowing everything in the world. And he might be having something which is not known to you. So you must learn from him. And there he said, my attitude is that so long as I live, so long I will learn. That is the context. Now, this brings into the focus that Sri Ramakrishna seems to have a definite idea about learning. So, though we call education, Sri Ramakrishna said, so long as I learn. So, learning, Sri Ramakrishna had a definite concept. And now, they requested me to give the first lecture of this series. You may say the inaugural address of this series, you may say the keynote address of this series. So, I chose the topic specially referring to Sri Ramakrishna, that his teaching, we say Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are universal. Universal does not mean that every teaching of his has to be practiced by everybody in the world. That is, will be very wrong idea of yourself. That every teaching of Sri Ramakrishna is to be practiced by everybody in the world is not the right idea about universal. Just now I quoted a shlok. It tells you that he created a team of teachers. So actually, Sri Ramakrishna was the principal of a B.Ed college, teachers training, and he prepared teachers in such a way that they could cater to the needs of all in the world. That brings us to this topic that everybody's need is different. Though we are all human beings, though we are either men or women, we are looking outside to some because we are human beings. But as everybody physically is different, everybody's mind also is different. This is the first fact recognized by Sri Ramakrishna in the field of spirituality and religion, and you may add general human development. So, general human development for all men and women will not be on the same lines. This one has to accept. There will be some common points because we are human. And as developed human beings, there are some common points which are expected of us. Everybody has purva sanskara, the whole past of everybody's life, individual life, has its own existence. Nobody is born in this world tabula rasa as a blank state. You cannot write. If the state is really blank, you cannot write anything there. Man has already certain notions when he comes in this world. And if you want to teach him something, You have to, if you represent it by the brain, in the brain there are several grooves. Like the gramophone record, there are several ways marked there, grooves. Now, if something is kept near the groove, the mind will extend and catch it. That is the way of education. If the lines are very less, the mind it cannot learn new things in great speed. If you keep something far away from the marked line, it will almost be impossible for the man to catch it. These are all psychological truths important in education. So, from known to unknown, if it is absolutely unknown, that is very difficult to catch it. But along the known fact which you have, if you keep something near it, then we can extend it and catch it. And this is supremely known throughout the book. We don't know any other person in the history of mankind from the beginning of creation, except maybe the ancient rishis of Upanishads. There is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a Yagyavalkya Rishi, and he teaches Maitreya in a completely different way. He teaches Janaka in completely different way. He talks to Gargi in a completely different way. He talks to other rishis in their own language. And Swami Vivekananda has told us again and again, if you can help a man grow in his line of growth, help him. Otherwise, hands off, he says. Don't impose your ideas on him. He has a line of growth. And along that line, if you can add something more, you definitely should help him. Otherwise, hands off, he says. So, the topic here is the main point in Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education is that it should take the shape as per the needs of the hour. As per in our terminology, Adhikari Bhed is first to be recognized. Now this Adhikari Bhed has been completely misunderstood. It is nothing outside that this is for Brahmins, this is for Kshatriyas, this is for Sannyasis, this is for women, this is for man, this is for Hindus, this is no, that is not the Adhikar. Adhikar is the present state of our mind, what our mind can do and whether that will help us grow as human beings. We call it the spiritual growth. That is called Adhikar. Adhikar is defined as something which we can do and which will help him grow as an individual. And growth means taking him nearer to God. Each soul is potentially divine, Swami Vivekananda says. So we have divinity as our real nature. But the coverings are different. And by the you can also call it path of least resistance. One has to be taught along the path of least resistance. He should be helped to grow. For example, a man is so much addicted to worship God as say Kali the mother. You know, our present education so far as India is concerned is totally imposed upon us by Lord Macaulay. In 1836, he got the Education of India Bill passed. And there, one of the objectives he says, I will make the Indians forget their culture. I will make the Indians second grade citizens. And one of the points he mentions is that in the next 30 years, I will make Bengalis forget Kali. This was Lord Macaulay has stated in 1836. There is almost 200 years, and Bengalis have not forgotten Kali. You know what has happened? The Christians coming in contact with the Bengalis mainly because the capital was Calcutta in those days. We read the Bible and we read, My Father in heaven. That is in English we read. The original Bible is in Hebrew. And now the modernists say that the translation is wrong. The original word does not mean father, it means parents. So by coming in touch with the Bengalis, they have changed their idea. So, because that was nearer, because Bengalis, we know God is Father, we know very well. In the Vedas, God is always called as Paramapita. That does not exclude God from becoming Papa. In the ninth chapter of the Gita, so many relations are described. God is also described as grandfather, Mata, Dhata, Pitamaha. So we can come in relation with God in so many ways. That is not the only type of relation. These are physical relations. Other than that, there are philosophical relations. God is my being. God is my being. My Atman is the topmost, you may say, relation with God. God is my reality. God is my sustainer. God is my abhar. I live in God. God lives in me. There are so many ways in which I can think of God. And when I am thinking of God, you may be little surprised and unexpected things might be coming to you. You must have thought in terms of modern education I will talk, but the only education I know is man's full development. And man's full development takes place only when he himself becomes God. When man as a human being has so many limitations, when the limitations are transcended, when the man comes out of his limitations and he becomes, in Swami Vivekananda's words, as broad as the sky and as deep as the ocean, then that is the full development of man. But this will take place not in the same way for all. With this introduction now, and my base, is Sri Ramakrishna, the great master. There we get two chapters on Swami Vivekananda's learning from the world and learning from Sri Ramakrishna. For that, there are two sections of that chapter. In the fifth part of Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, eighth chapter is Narendra's learning in the world and by the master, from the master. Then again, there is a chapter, Sri Ramakrishna's method of testing. Now, testing is an important aspect of education. We have to test a man, and to understand his capabilities, we have to test him. Testing in our Indian concept is not rejecting or accepting. There is no rejection in our university. Absolutely no rejection. But if your mind is like that, I will teach you in that way. If your mind is like that, I will teach you in this way. That is called the method of testing. And we find, I will first of all read you a passage from that great master. And to tell that this teaching or education is not only with the help of books. To quote a modern incident, I will tell you, some 20, 30 years back, I went to Amritsar and there is a Springdale school there, public school. The principal madam entered the school and the nature outside was beautiful that day, good fine morning. So she called the class teacher of the first standard and told her, take the children to the forest today. Take the children to the forest today and let them spend the whole day in the forest and learn whatever they can. You teach them whatever you could teach in the forest. So, I am telling the modern incident. So, Sri Krishna, now I'll tell you some ancient stories of India also. One king had four sons, and all four sons were absolutely uninterested to go to the school, formal school of education. And the king was worried how they will grow afterwards. So he tried teachers after teacher. One teacher said, I will teach your children. And he called all of them and started telling them stories. And at the end of a few years, he said they have become perfect now in their understanding, in their capacity to rule the kingdom, and in every way. And that one story book is called. A similar book is Hitopadesha. A similar book in modern world is Aesop's fables. So simply telling them stories, he made all the principles needed for the growth of the human being through those stories. I read the passage how Sri Krishna taught Swami Vivekananda and all his capable friends at the same time and but differently. That was Sri Krishna's unique method. The sweet, that is the fifth para, section 2, chapter 8 of the fifth part of Sri Krishna, the great master. Narendra's own words, how he spent his time with the master at Dakshineshwar. The sweet memory of the days Narendra spent with the master at Dakshineshwar during this period filled his mind with infinite joy throughout his life. So first person is that, first principle is that the education which you impart should always produce joy in you. And a long-lasting joy. Long-lasting joy comes only by spiritual growth. It is difficult to explain, he said, it is difficult to explain to others how blissfully I spent my days with the Master. There is no limit to our astonishment when we think of how, through play, merriment, and other ordinary daily activities, he gave us high exalted spiritual education. High exalted spiritual education and molded our life without our knowledge. Without our knowledge, he molded our life. I remember one incident in my own life, one small incident. My teacher, my Guruji, he spoke to us in the beginning in Hindi or English. I also used to respond in Hindi or English. Slowly he started mixing Bengali words and I could catch them. And slowly he started talking everything in Bengali. And I used to respond in Hindi or English. One day unconsciously, I responded in Bengali. He said, oh, you have learned Bengali. So he taught me Bengali without my knowledge. Without my knowledge that I am learning Bengali. So I have a proof on this very topic. Everything in life he taught like that. Now you see, there is no limit to our astonishment when we think of how through play, merriment and other ordinary daily activities, he gave us high exalted spiritual education and molded our life without our knowledge. Just as a wrestler, example, huh? Just as a powerful wrestler at the time of teaching a boy, keeps his skill in reserve and displays only a part of his power as suits the purpose of teaching the boy. Produces self-confidence in him, sometimes by defeating him seemingly with great effort, and sometimes allowing himself to be defeated by him. So, on many occasions, the master assumed that attitude in dealing with us at that time. Are the teachers ready even to sometimes to appear to be defeated by the students? Are they ready to show that they are winning with great effort? That should not lower down their self-esteem. Because it is the love which matters in education. The master assumed that attitude in dealing with us at that time. You always saw a whole sea in a drop of water, as they say. That means he could see the potential in man. The other definition of education is that though we are all potentially divine, but when it comes to plural, we have different potentials. What is these days called talent, different potentials. And if those potentials are made to grow, our potential divinity itself will grow. So the potential, in this respect, let me quote you, bad experience of the government of Maharashtra. Some 40 years back, they trained the school teachers into vocational guidance from the 7th standard up to matriculation. So many tests and other things they are taught so that they will judge where the student will express his talents and they will guide him accordingly at the point of high school, which college, which stream he should join. And this scheme failed totally due to non-cooperation of the parents. Parents don't like this. I have experience. When I was in Mumbai, one mother of a boy came and asked me which line my boy should take. I said, why you are asking me? Because you know, she said, which line has more scope this year, this time. I said, this thinking is totally wrong. This thinking creates bottlenecks. A time had come when everybody becomes engineer, everybody becomes doctor, everybody becomes in India. The fad came when everybody went to MBA. And in Chandigarh, I saw an MBA got an appointment in the bank to stamp the papers which a matriculate could have done. So bottleneck comes, and that is a very wrong concept. I told her, you should ask me in which line this boy has a scope. Don't ask which line has a scope. Ask me which line this boy has a scope. And I guided that boy to take up the art stream. Art means not fine arts, usually humanities stream, to the exclusion of science streams. And that boy had a talent. He had done his, in India there is a NCC, and he had done B certificate already. So when he joined intermediate arts, he finished the C certificate. He got selected in the National Defense Academy. And when he passed on that second lieutenant, that mother wrote me a letter thanking me. So, according to the need, according to the need, capacity, fitness, aptitude. So, according to the aptitude, the teaching should be there. Now we continue. He always saw a whole sea in a drop of water, as they say. Having had in ecstasy, having had in samadhi, the immediate knowledge fully developed, laden with fruits and flowers, which the seed of spirituality hidden in our hearts could assume in future. So at a glance he saw what is the future possibility of his highest development and guided him in that life. I will tell something about, anyway, this personal memory will crowd here. I am talking of my Guruji in the ashram. When I decided to become a monk, my youngest elder brother, what we call Chota in Bengal, told me that your face is towards east and my face is towards west. I said, all right, if you think like that, what can I do? Providentially, he came to the ashram and stayed there for 3 days. And at the end of 3 days, he is bitterly weeping. I never saw him weeping. Bitterly weeping and telling my teacher, one brother you have kept and the other brother you are driving out. He said, I'm not driving out any brother. I will, the other brother also as I keep a boy. But negotiations about his marriage were there. You go ahead, don't be afraid. I heard a wonderful word that day. I clearly see that the pattern of your life is different. Pattern of your life is different. So he went ahead, married, and after 1 year of marriage, both the husband and wife wrote a joint letter to my Guruji. Please bless us that we want to live a pure life from today. And 55 years they stayed together. So, at one point of time when I was very, very young, no vice in the ashram, I found myself temporarily in charge, manager of the publication department, the chief editor of Vikas and whatnot. I told him, you have done some miracle. I never thought management I can do. He said, no, don't give me a wrong credit. I saw your capacity on the first day I saw. You did not know, I knew. And I created situations by which that will come out. So that is how they think. That is how they deal with. So Sri Ramakrishna saw potential and he would praise and encourage us in every way. That is another thing. Praise and encourage us in every way. Otherwise, now I will take the example of the Gita. Bhagavan condemns the wrong thought in Arjuna. Condemns outright. But says it does not befit you. That is the whole secret of education. You are not, this thought is bad. This thought does not befit you. And that is how Arjuna could come out of it. He would praise and encourage us in every way and at all times. And another thing, and observing very carefully each of our actions. He kept us under restraint by giving us instruction lest we should get entangled among desires and fail to reach the fruition of our life. But we could not know at all that he observed us so minutely and controlled us so effectively. That was an extraordinary skill which the master displayed in teaching us and molding our life. We felt that mind, although getting a little cons, then he is giving some personal example. Here, we is wrong at time that the mind, although getting a little concentrated at the time of meditation, for want of a proper object, we asked him what we should do. When he told us, what his teacher Totapuri had told him. He, Sri Ramakrishna, pinched Swami Vivekananda's eyebrows with his nail and said, concentrate on this pain. When I sat for meditation during the last part of the night, the mind, I remember, became distracted and deflected. Oh, there is another, huh? In similar circumstances and suggested various useful methods. That is something different. Huh? When I sat for meditation during the last part of the night, the mind, I remember, became distracted and deflected from the object of meditation on account of the noise produced by the whistling sound of the jute mills of Allahabad. When I referred the matter to him, he advised me to concentrate my mind upon the sound of the whistle itself, and I derived much benefit from that. Now, what I was telling is now, huh? On another occasion, I apprised him of my difficulty in forgetting the body and concentrating the mind on the goal and sought his advice. He mentioned the words addressed to him by Sri Totapuri at the time of his sadhana of Vedantic Samadhi and sharply pierced my forehead between the eyebrows with the tip of his nail, saying, concentrate your mind upon that pain. And actually, I found that the pain produced by that cut could be kept uniformly in the mind as long as I like. And I completely forgot even the existence of all the other parts of the body, let alone the risk of the mind being distracted by them. When I speak of spiritual exercises alone, we spend much time there in Panchavati, in play and merriment also. At those times, the master too joined us as added to our happiness. There we ran about, climbed trees, and sitting in the swing formed by the Madhavi creeper, as strong as cable, swung freely and merrily, and sometimes we picnic. So, this is what Sri Krishna taught him. Now, I will shift to other examples of Sri Krishna's teaching as per need and capacity. Taraknath Ghoshal, who was later on known as Swami Shivananda or Mahapurush Maharaj, he says in his youth, his mind told him that the world does not exist. His mind told him that the world is unreal. But he said, but I perceive it. He is not putting this perception as objection to that because that mind is feeling. But can I not bring the mind to such a state that I will see that the world does not exist? That I will see that the world is unreal? Cannot not bring my mind to that state? You understand? He was hankering for what is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Veda in his youth. Now, first day he met the master in a devotee's house, Ramchandra Datta. He invited Sri Ramakrishna. He was known in those days as the Paramahamsa of Dakshinayana. And because Taraknath stayed in the same area, he invited him also. And as Taraknath entered, he saw Sri Ramakrishna was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And because he was hankering for that, he could immediately understand. And that day, coming out of Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna talked only on Samadhi. So Taraknath became sure that if I go to him, my purpose in life will be fulfilled and the future is history, as you say. Another example, according to the change of attitude, how Sri Krishna changed himself. And that is in relation to, we cannot compare them, but one of the greatest householder devotees, Balaram Bose. Balaram Bose was a Vaishnava. And one of the teachings of the Vaishnavas is ahimsa. So normally, he would not even kill a mosquito or a fly or an ant, even if they disturb his life. Now, he met Sri Krishna, and in his mind he met Sri Krishna as the Guru and was going to him frequently. One day while meditating in his own house, mosquito was coming and biting him. And instinctively he thought of smashing that mosque. But due to the Vaishnava sanskaras, he felt it is wrong. Then who will solve this problem? Let me ask Sri Ramakrishna. So he started going to Sri Ramakrishna. And in the way he is thinking, I have never seen him hurting even this smallest creature. Unnecessarily, I am going. Anyway, but let me have the darshan of my Guru. So he went there. And when he reached that house, what did he see? Sri Krishna was taking out cockroaches from his pillow and smashing them. And he told Balaram, see, they do not allow me to sleep, not meditate, sleep. And it flashed in Balaram, that is what he is teaching me. And then he thought, all these years I am coming to him and never saw him hurting even the smallest insect. Today my mind is seeking this answer and he is doing that. That is what I said according to the need or aptitude or the state of the mind. The teaching, the showing itself is changed automatically. Swami Turiyananji's example. He was a great Vedantist from his childhood. And he thought that one has to read so many books and so many philosophies, and without that he cannot have a concept of God. And Sri Krishna was attracted by him due to his continence and other steadfastness, devotion, and his frequency to visit Sri Krishna became less per Sunday because his friend said, because he is busy in discussing Vedanta. And he came one day. Sri Krishna asked him, oh, I heard that you are busy in discussing Vedanta. Tell me, what is Vedanta? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Anything else is there? You tell me. And he was reading Vedanta for many years. But at that point it flashed in him, yes. That is the only thing Vedanta is teaching, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, there is a process of learning this. Shravan Manan Nididhyasi. You have to hear, you have to think about it, and you have to try to experience that. That was the first teaching, and then he changed. After going back, he continued reading Vedanta, but more emphasis came on meditation and self-effort to realize that. After that, one day when he went to Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna was telling that nothing is possible without the grace of God. And he sang a song, and so much in that feeling that tears flowed his eyes, and tears flowed from Turiyanda's eyes also. And he said, this is permanently engraved in me as the second lesson night. He did not tell this on the first day. So self-effort is very necessary, but the attitude should be that it comes by God's grace. So 2 lessons he taught him in 2 days. So the method of education should be suitable according to the need of that person at that time. Now Sri Ramakrishna had many women also as his disciples. And by the influence of his character in those days, he made the women go. They did not have the habit even of walking on the street, but he made them go to market, purchase things, and change their life completely. One woman told him that while trying to concentrate on God, my mind goes here and there. I remember the face of one, the talk of some. He understood she is talking about one person only. And asked her, which face comes to your mind? She said, my nephew. I am helping him grow as man. He said, why do you do to him with the human idea? Why not change your idea that you are helping a small Gopala, small Krishna to grow? You do everything which you are doing. Change the attitude, change the idea. And when she started doing that, she could go to Samadhi level. So that is what we have to learn from Sri Ramakrishna. And at this point, I would appeal to you to definitely go through this book, Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master. Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master. In Bengali, those who know Bengali, better read the original Bengali, Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga, because everything could not be translated in English. And for all the other listeners, or Indians at least, Marathi translation is best. Marathi people can go through Sri Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga in Marathi. Hindi translation has some defects, but it is better. English translation, those who do not know Indian languages can go through the English translation. But this book I quoted from now, and this book has a chapter, Sri Ramakrishna's method of testing. So you can understand. I hope, Mr. Ganguly, my original talk should be over here and I should leave people for question and answers now.
Uh, Maharaji, if you want, that is absolutely fine. That will give us some time for question and answer. But if you want to speak for another 5 minutes, you can do that.
Okay. So, now, coming to Swami Vivekananda, the chief disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He said that the Guru has to divide himself into 1,000 parts to teach 1,000 people. And yet his mind should be one integrated mind. I will tell an example. Swami was in America, and after a lecture, he came up with some of his disciples. One disciple said, Swamiji, that particular point in your lecture I did not like. Swamiji said, that was not for you. And another disciple said, Maharaj, that was the best point. He said, that was for you. So, how they could, in the same lecture, provide different ideas to different people. And we find Sri Ramakrishna's case. He is dealing with all his disciples together, and how he is teaching them differently. That is something superhuman skill. But it also depends upon if the teacher does not have ego, if the teacher's mind is not constrained into some idea, then only this can happen. The teacher, unless he is unselfish, teacher, unless he tries to understand what the other man's need is, he cannot teach him properly at all. So, in this respect, now another thing let me add. I had a teacher in my college life, and I had the chance of seeing his diary, wherein he had mentioned his ideas on education. And what was on the title page? Duty of a teacher is to make the student independent of himself. Duty of a teacher is to make the student independent of himself, independent of that teacher. So that is another beautiful idea. And the teacher has to make the student think and get educated. I will give one or two examples of that. A teacher of mathematics. So he wrote on the board one line and keeping a gap he wrote another step. We could easily understand that he has written the third step, not the second. And then all of us are looking at that and trying in our mind to arrive at that third step. And he's just standing in a corner and looking at all our faces. And as it comes, the face shines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he saw that a few boys, even after 5 minutes, they are not come there. So he wrote the in-between step. And by this time he wrote the second step, he rubbed out the third step. And wrote the fourth or fifth step. Think that was his method. Otherwise, the teacher has a prescribed course and fills him with that crayons, makes certain things that is not education at all. Spoon feeding they are called, that you may get marks in the examination, maybe, but it does not lead to original thinking, which is a must in education. And so, this is what. Now, another thing about that teacher. We these days talk about value education, and that makes me happy and sad at the same time. Sad because we have to talk of value education. Education is only inculcation of values. What else is there? We learn why it was necessary for the first Prime Minister of India to keep a neutral foreign policy. We learn Buddha's ahimsa. We learn many values of our life. I will give one example. He came, I think you all understand in preliminary mathematics. One day the topic was equations. He came and said, boys, do you know why we learn equations? To learn impartiality. Whatever we have to do through this side, we must do to that side. Now this is 50, 60 years back, and we could not make mistake in equation, and we could not make mistake of partiality from that thing. One day a funny thing happened. He was to teach us the third law of Newton. Action and reaction are equal and opposite. No, I was not so conscious, but one of my friends sitting in the class is digging into me. Let us see what sir tells today. Because he always talks of Buddha, he does not like reactions. And the surprise was, after his roll call, when he was turning towards the board, he said, boys, do you know what Buddha has told? If a man hates you with, say, 1 kilogram of power, whatever 1 unit of power, you should apply the same power to him. Power should be love. The reaction is equal and opposite in nature. Now, you may ask, if he loves you, what we should do? He has told his lesson, he has made that point. So that is how. If the teacher is keen on learning value, his breath will teach you values. His life will teach you values. So, the need of the student should always include certain universal values needed by everybody. In this respect, there is a small story. Story it may be, that the Pandavas and Kauravas, when they started school, First day the teacher taught two sentences. You should always speak the truth and you should never be angry. And next day is asking, have you prepared the two sentences? Have you prepared yesterday's lesson? All of them said yes, yes, yes. Yudhishthira said no, sir. I could prepare one, I could not prepare the other. Speaking the truth, that is my nature. But never get angry, that is difficult, sir. And the teacher out of anger came to beat him. You could not prepare a small sentence? No, understand? In Yudhishthira's mind, to learn a thing means to learn it inside. I will tell another funny story. In the, when I was in Chandigarh, that is 1992 to 2002, I don't remember the exact year. One thing in the fifth standard. He came from a traditionally devotee family. And in the book on geography, how God entered, I do not know. But his teacher, he said that explained everything nicely. But at the end, turned her nose and said, but I don't believe this. And he was shocked out of his wits. So the parents brought him to me. He described everything. I could tell him in 15, 20 minutes whatever I could tell. And after that, to check, I asked, have you understood? He said, yes. His problem was, she is senior in age to me. She is more learned than me. She is teacher and student. And what I can understand very easily about God, how she cannot understand, that was the shock. And after I told him something, he said, yes, I understood. Because of these very three reasons, she has more ego than me. And this ego obstructs understanding. Now coming back to Sri Ramakrishna to end this, two different incidents are there. One is that there was a young boy, Vaikuntanath Sanyal, and Sri Ramakrishna he was devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. So much that he took Sri Ramakrishna himself as Shiva. But one day when Sri Ramakrishna was telling him something, he was going on counter-arguing. So Sri Ramakrishna touched him and said, my boy, I am telling you and you are raising counter-objection. He said, when you are telling, I already accepted. That was for argument's sake. Does it mean that Sri Ramakrishna wants us to accept everything? So I will give another example. One new devotee was asking thousands of questions of Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna very patiently was replying to every question of his. Another person sitting there, known to be an old Brahma devotee, said to that person, why are you questioning so much? Why don't you accept what he says? Sri Ramakrishna turned to this devotee and said, I thought you are a good man, but you seem to be a counterfeit fine. Why should he accept? Why should he not question? Why should he not understand? Why should he not assimilate before he accepts? So seeing these two examples, you understand that there is an element in Upanishads, it is called Shraddha. Shraddha Somya. Look at it positively, that is how it translates. So the person unnecessarily arguing, Sri Ramakrishna said, Shraddha. And to the person who is inquisitively asking is explaining. So, I think, Ms. Ganguly, it's enough.
Thank you very much, Maharajji. We are so much obliged to you. What
But
a
people might have been surprised. I have not talked about school education, but anyway, that is what I have talked.
what a profound insight you have given, Maharajji, that is of Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education, that is educating a person according to one's own need and according to the need of that time. Very profound insight, clubbed with so many examples. But of course, not many questions remain, but kind of in consonance with Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education, we have time for three to four questions. Let us be brief. Kindly unmute yourself and ask the question. One by one, at least three or four questions can be asked.
Yes, please.
Partha, you have any question?
I think no one.
Swamiji,
He
respected
is.
Swamiji, I think it was a very wonderful exposition from your side about Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education. But coming to modern day application of Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings in the sphere of education, you think we have gone wrong somewhere, or we are kind of going the right way? Because I find that a lot of things are imposed on students, I think, without understanding the implications of it. I think Sri Ramakrishna, in his very simple way, has a kind of said so many things that we need to, I think, take these issues very seriously in the present day context. And this is what I thought I should tell Swamiji about.
Okay. So, the present Ramakrishna Mission schools or colleges, are they teaching as per Sri Ramakrishna taught? That is the question. And I would say, sorry, it is not happening. But at the same time, not that it is not happening at all. Two things are there. Most of the educational institutions are residential institutions. And what we cannot teach in the class, we teach them outside. And in the class, because of our positive attitude, that positivity enters into it. And if our life, as I said, is full of love of God, that also gets transmitted into them. I can at the best give my own example. In Nagpur, we don't have a school run by the Ramakrishna Mission, but we have, you may call it a hostel, we call it Vivekananda Vidyarthi Bhavan. 30 students at a time used to learn in those days. I was the warden for 8 years. And those who came never went out before 4, 5, 6 years. So overall, 90 students passed my hands in those days. I will give you some statistics to judge for yourself. 35 of these students have taken Diksha from the Ramakrishna. 2 of them are brilliant sadhus. I think all of you may be aware of Yogatmananda in the Providence. He is one of those students. And if I tell you something funny, it will not end. He was the most rebellious student in his batch. Most rebellious. And yet see how he has developed. I allowed him full freedom in his thought, full freedom. I remember when he decided to join the Ramakrishna Mission, his father told him that the Swami might have conditioned your mind. You live outside for 1 year and then decide. He told my father, I was not so much free with you as much as with my Swami. He has not conditioned my mind. He has given me full freedom. The other boy, I am calling him a boy, Seva Vratananda, at present the Chief Medical Officer, Rachi Ramakrishna. Anyway, so now none, other side, 22 out of this 90 are PhDs. And for your information, if you are interested, in the caste wise breakup, 7 out of these 22 are from the scheduled caste. And none of the boys is sitting idle. One among my listeners is there. He retired as the dean. He was to become vice chancellor, but something came in between. Dean of the science faculty in Lakshminarayan Institute of Technology in Nagpur. And once year I attended the Teachers' Day function there. And the clapping which he got, nobody else got. Another, Rajeshwar Uttarwar, is running academy for mentally retarded children with 125 children and is solving their occupational problems also after they pass out. These two examples I gave. Another, Sudhakar Gaurkade, working in field, villages, and getting award after award for his work there. The potential grew. There was a boy, Vishwas Bapat, boy of a priest. And you know, the priests are more backward than the backward classes. So his idea was, let my boy learn BCom somehow and get some job out of this priesthood. That boy was BCom, MCom, special diploma in labor management and was a very high officer, also. When he came for interview, I asked him, what is your name? He said, Vishwas Bapat. I said, what is Vishwas? Can you tell me? He said, no. I said, faith in God and faith in yourself. That is Vishwas. Faith in God and faith in yourself. That is Vishwas. And see how he grew. Another boy, Namdev Jagvi. His idea was somehow to get BSc. He is PhD in chemistry and he was the vice chancellor of two universities till his retirement. So, the positivity could be found. Their ambitions, if you can call them, their horizons, that is the right word, horizon grew. We could not only somehow pass and somehow become a teacher. We grow and grow and grow. So, this is what. Now I will give you another example. There was a Mr. B.T. Advani. He became B.Ed from the Ramakrishna Mission Institute in Mysore. He ran a school for girls at Kamti near Nagpur. And 4 hours according to the government school curricula. 2 hours sanskara. So his admission in school, he had a 6-hour school. Nobody could say no because 4 hours are given for that. After that 2 hours, they will learn everything necessary for their growth of life. And that institution is flourishing. Now it has become a part of the sadhana Math at Kapti. So, what Ramakrishna Mission is doing, in one sense, we have become mad after degrees or better degrees, that is true. But we are contributing as much as we can through our life, our personal dealings, and in whatever way we can. I think that is the reply you wanted.
Swamiji, I think the impact is having on the entire system. I think the schools of the Ramakrishna mission, I think the schools of the Ramakrishna mission are producing students which has an impact on the entire education system. I think this is what my limited experience shows, at least in West Bengal. I can see that. Yes, thank you so much.
In the beginning, I accepted what you said, and then I said the other way, isn't it? So that is true that circumstances do affect, and this craze for better merit is killing. For better standing, rank in the university, that does not decide you are a man. You are a man if you are a man of guts. If you can, as I was telling about Yogatmananda, he could rebel against me at every step. But every time I judge that he has some substance inside because of which he is doing like that. And if you encourage that substance, shall I tell you a story? One story. We used to celebrate Saraswati Puja for 3 days. And in those days, and boys used to contribute among themselves. They used to fix, so 7 rupees per head. Some money they would get from others. And these boys said they are wasting money. That year they decided 10 rupees per boy. He said they are wasting their money, I will not give. The boys came to me. I said, don't take from him. He did not come for the group photo because I have not given money. You can understand very well. Next year, I appointed him, you are the secretary this. And he said, Saraswati Puja can be done in 4 rupees per head. I said, wait now, 4 rupees per head. And he did puja better than the last year. And at the end of that, I said, you have done a wonderful thing. Now, what about the next step? You understood? He joined the Ramakrishna mission. So, anyway. So
Thank you so much.
we have to put in our mind as another attitude. What happens in the world, what happens throughout Ramakrishna mission, we should do as much as we can. And that would help the whole universe like that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maharajji. Before doing the vote of thanks, let me, on behalf of everybody present, let us convey warmest greetings to our Filipino brothers and sisters on the occasion of Independence Day of Philippines. Today, June 12, happens to be the Independence Day of Philippines. So, heartiest greetings to our Filipino brothers and sisters. And now I would request our friend Hiranya Mukhopadhyay to kindly give vote of thanks.
One small point I want to add, though a little fun. Sadhus of the Ramakrishna mission these days are famous for every field. Some people, I would joke, some people say if you want to know agriculture, if you want to know this, if you want to know that, refer to the Ramakrishna mission sadhus. In joke, I would have, don't ask about God, ask about other things. That is not true, but so that is how the Ramakrishna mission makes us grow. Everybody. There are books written on flower culture by one of our Swamis. And one of our Swamis used to be the judge of flower shows throughout Calcutta and surroundings. And so we have grown in the Ramakrishna mission in all the capacities which we have, along with, I hope, devotion to Thakur. Okay, now
thank you, Maharajji. And before the vote of thanks, let me inform you that we have two singers who will sing a devotional song. We have Associate Professor of Delhi University, Professor Ranjana Chakrabarti, Ranjana Bhattacharya, Ranjana Di, and we have another Ranjana Di, Ranjana Bhattacharya from Delhi again. She will also sing a song. Before that, Hiranya will kindly give vote of thanks to Maharaj Ji for his profound talk, which has encouraged us like anything. Hiranya Mukhopadhyay.
Pranam Maharaj, Pranam. I'll also share one story. You shared so many beautiful story. I know one monk. He was my batchmate in the Ramakrishna Mission. Monk. He was a brilliant student. He did not want to pursue further studies, so he joined Ranchi Hatia Center. And I told the current president, Maharaj, he has gone to Hatia to avoid Calcutta University. And President Maharaj, current President Maharaj said, let him go there, let him cool down for some time. We have to decide. He has to come back and finish his PhD. And that's what he exactly did. He came back to Belur Math, he stayed in Sharada Pit and he did his PhD and he started teaching the students in Sharada Pit, Belur Vidya Pit. So Maharaj, thank you again and a pranam for this wonderful lecture and beautiful stories, Maharaj, very inspiring stories. And it gives me enormous pleasure and happiness to see you back in our group. Equally happy to see all the old and familiar faces. Wonderful lecture, Maharaj, on behalf of all the devotees and disciples. Pranam again, Maharaj.
We end now, huh?
Okay, and on behalf of all of you, let me profusely thank Swami Baneshanandaji Maharaj to be kindly present in today's talk. So thank you, Baneshanandaji Maharaj, pranam. And now I would first request Associate Professor Ranjana Bhattacharya ji to kindly sing a devotional song. We are so privileged to have. And Maharaji, if you want to stay for the two songs, you can, or if you feel that you need to take some rest, you can do that.
No, I want to express only my hope that this series goes on nicely.
Okay.
Various monks contributing their own ideas about Sri Ramakrishna's concept of education. May this series proceed with His grace nicely. That is my wish.
We need your blessings, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Pranam, Maharaj. Pranam.
So now I would request Associate Professor Ranjana Bhattacharya ji to kindly start her devotional song. Dr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you very much. In keeping with Maharaj's speech, I will be singing this song, which I learned in school long ago. It takes courage to answer a call. It takes courage to give your all. It takes courage to risk your name. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to answer a call. It takes courage to give your all. It takes courage to risk your name. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to dare what no other will share, to be standing alone, one whom no one will own, to be ready to stay for another man's sake. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to answer a call. It takes courage to give your all. It takes courage to risk your name. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to say what you know will not pay, to give each one his share, though there'll be less to spare, to be seeking no more than the neighbor's be. It takes courage to answer a call. It takes courage to give your all. It takes courage to risk your name. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to leave what good fortune can give and come to a land where the poor need a hand to be spending one's days in less leisurely ways. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to answer a call. It takes courage to give your all. It takes courage to risk your name. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to be true. It takes courage to be true.
Okay, please stop. Huh?
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya, for such a beautiful song. And now Maharajji is about to leave. Thank you, Maharajji, once again. And you may leave, Maharajji. And thank you. We are so grateful to you. We have another Ranjanadi to sing another beautiful song. So we luckily we have two Ranjanadis. So Dr. Ranjana Bhattacharya, who is teaching history in Delhi University, and another Ranjanadi who will sing another beautiful song. Ranjanadi, you are invited. Please present your song.
Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharanye. Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharanye. Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam, Kripahi Kevalam Sharanye. प्रभु कृपा ही केवलम, कृपा ही केवलम, कृपा ही केवलम शरणं। राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं शरणं। शरणागतहं, शरणागतहं, शरणं। शरणागतहं, शरणागतहं, शरणागतहं शरण्ये। राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं शरण्ये। नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो नमो। नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो श्री गुरवे, नमो नमो। राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं शरण्ये। राम कृष्ण जय जय राम कृष्ण, 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 राम कृष्ण जय जय राम कृष्ण। राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं शरण्ये। राम कृष्ण शरणं, राम कृष्ण शरणं, Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharanye Ma Sharuda Sharanam Ma Sharuda Sharanam Ma Sharuda Sharanam Sharanye Swamiti Sharanam Swamiti Sharanam Swamiti Sharanam Sharanye Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharanye Jai Sri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai Jai Mahamai ki Jai Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Ranjanadi, for such beautiful song and for uh, presenting us with such a beautiful devotional song in each of our meetings. On behalf of all of us, we express our heartfelt thanks to you. With these words, we would like to also thank each of the participants. We had a very nice participation. More than 50 people participated in today's inaugural lecture, and what a great insight we got from Swami Pitambaranandaji Maharaj. And with these words, we would like to end the recording. So the program ends here. I'm ending the recording. So I'll be the last person to leave. So let me please give me 30 seconds to end the recording.